can with this whole business about the city of Carlsbad, and they will not display the gay pride flag in their city property. And this is obviously anytime there's LGBTQ issues that come up, that's a hot issue. That's a hot issue in California. And, it's interesting to see what these cities are doing and how they navigate around this process. So the headline here in the San Diego Union Tribune story is that the proposal to display commemorative flags, including the pride flag, fails in Carlsbad. So, I mean, obviously, if, the LGBTQ community is like up in arms. What do you mean you're banning our flag? This isn't right. But there's a lot more to this story, and I think it's worthy of discussion. So, one of the mayor, Keith Blackburn, said, I see this being fraught with problems. He says, raising the possibility that other groups, including some fringe groups, might want to unfurl their banner on city buildings. It's the old slippery slope argument. If they let some of these these flags in Carlsbad, maybe they have to allow a lot of other flags. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting how this breaks down. Now, according to one of the students from Carlsbad High School, her name is Sarah Hunter. She said that in 2019, the city council voted 3-2 to declare June LGBTQ plus Pride Month each year going forward. And there were two opponents to that. And the opponents said, well, if you do that, then it's going to lead to this flood, this avalanche of other community groups. They're going to want their, monthly, their month designated just for them. But what's interesting is it never really materialized. So it's this slippery slope argument. If you let in the gay pride flag, does that mean you have to let in all these other ones? And then will those other ones even come? So I think this is a really interesting topic because it makes you wonder about what is the role of the city government. You think of city government, its primary function being safety, fires, fire department, police department, that sort of thing, and infrastructure like roads and sewer and water, and then parks. And there's a number of other things that gets involved with city government. But should city government be flying the flag of, gay pride? Should it be flying the POW flag? Should it be flying a lot of other flags? I mean, that's a fair question. Now, the similar story, this went down in La Mesa as well. And Laura Lothian, who's a city council member in La Mesa, and she's relatively conservative, she proposed a similar plan to essentially ban any of the flags on city property. Because she only said we should only display the American flag, the California flag, and the La Mesa flag. And that's it. And so she said, well, she posted a video on Instagram and said, we need to put our political activism aside, and we have to not make City Hall a billboard for people's political agendas. And yeah, I mean, if you break this down, this is just really interesting to me. Now, I got to say this. I think the city of Carlsbad did the right thing. And I'm going to explain why. And it's probably a little bit of a different angle than you might expect from some other people. But let's kind of keep going through this. So apparently, this Laura Lothian, the city council member in La Mesa that proposed a similar rule, it got shot down. There was overwhelming community people speaking against her. And it was almost like the community thought that Lothian was trying to be neutral. And one of the objectors, Mary Davis, said that the La Mesa should be neutral on social issues. La Mesa is already a diverse, loving, and accepting city, and you don't need to prove that with a flag. So some people are saying they need to be neutral. I don't think city government should be neutral on these things. But the question is, should they fly a flag? And then this person who was a conservative that was objecting to the gay pride flag was saying, well, what if I unfurled a national sanctity of life flag, kind of a pro-life flag, in the abortion argument? And apparently the audience groaned and that sort of thing. but they were asking Laura Lothian, how can you push this agenda of neutrality when there are people that are LGBTQ that are being persecuted, that are being slandered, that, people don't have the luxury of such neutrality, such neutrality. Well, here's the deal. Here's my opinion on this whole thing. There's a difference between public sector and private sector. Let's set that up first. In the private sector, people should be able to display whatever flag they want. You want to put a flag on your house or on your business, go for it. We have freedom of speech in the United States of America. That's a good thing. Now, in the public sector, is this something the city government should be doing? Well, some people might say, well, you darn right. We got to show support for LGBTQ, and we got to make sure these people are supported. Okay, but here's the deal. And this is kind of a fundamental issue that I have. You hear a lot of people talk about, well, there's gay rights and women's rights and rights for all these different minority groups. We shouldn't think in those terms, in my opinion. We should think in terms of all of us having equal rights, all of us having the same inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That includes people that are LGBTQ, that they can go out and live their own life and make choices about their own life and live freely and live a life according to their own values. And in my opinion, that's baked in to the American flag. After all, our inalienable rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness come from the American Declaration of Independence in, July 4th, 1776, or July 2nd, if you want to be technical about it. But at any rate, it's interesting. I agree with Carlsbad's stance, and I agree with this Laura Lothian in La Mesa that they should have also banned it in La Mesa too. And it's not because you're banning gays or less LGBTQ. It's not because you're banning that. What you're doing is you need to double down on the American flag and what liberty is all about. And that the American flag stands up for individual rights, including LGBTQ and including every other minority group that has a flag that wants to be represented. It's all there. And I think when you start insisting that there are gay rights and then there are women's rights and there are rights for, any possible political identity group, you lose sight of the fact that we all have the same rights. So, maybe if there was an equal rights flag, I would be supportive of that because that's really what it's intended here. So one of the objectors, she said, "Get with the times, Laura Lothian," the councilwoman from La Mesa. And she said, "You are a beautiful woman and you would be lucky to experience the love of another woman. But instead you choose to spread hate. Do you really think the American flag isn't political?" Well, the American flag definitely is political. The American flag represents what this nation is supposed to be all about. Freedom, liberty, living your life according to your own values, pursuing your happiness. So, my take on this is kind of different than most people. I'm of the opinion that it's okay for the city council, for the city halls to not kind of fall into the trap of having to, have all these different flags and these different commemorations to all these different groups. What do you think? If you've got a thought or a comment, you can get involved in the live stream. Here's a comment here already from Dana McGee Sturl. She says, "We're supposed to have equal rights, but we don't." You're right, Dana. We're supposed to have equal rights. That's the point. And we should be standing up for equal rights, that we all have a right to our own life, a right to make decisions about our own life. We have the liberty to make choices about our own life, and ultimately we can pursue our happiness. And if everybody had that right, then that takes care of all of the persecution and the oppression of other people's rights and of all these different political identity groups. If we really understood life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, there wouldn't be a problem with gay rights. There wouldn't be a problem with women rights. There wouldn't be a problem with slavery or Jim Crow laws. I mean, because the nation would be built on the proper moral and ethical foundations, and it should be the legal foundation. Ed Franklin on the live stream says it should be human rights. Well, yeah, I mean, all men are created equal. All humans are created equal. We all have the same rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Ed Franklin says human rights, period. Yeah. I mean, I think ultimately that's what it should be. We should all have equal rights. And if we stood up for that, it's baked in that lesbian, bisexual, gay, trans, they get equal rights too. The other guy has the same rights as you do. So hopefully these cities can kind of see this story a little bit more clearly. But it seems like if no matter what you do here, you're either framed as being pro LGBTQ or part of a hate group. And I don't think that's necessarily true. I think if you just support individual rights, inalienable rights, you're on the right side, in my opinion. Okay, let's move on.